Yeah, let me see it. Yeah, hopefully I can get this right. Let's see here. Yep. Okay. Think. Yep. Got it. Got it. Yeah.
That's
Yeah, I'm really interested to see. Yeah.
okay because you're pulling it up and muting it, right? So you don't get like a feedback, an echo.
I did. I did. I think that'll be fixed though. I hope. There was a small one a couple of seconds ago. Yeah. But yeah, I muted it, so we should be good. Okay. All right. Let's see. Yep. There we go. All right. All right. Perfect.
No.
Yep.
I'll be on the lookout though.
All right. It's just one game. That should be the key takeaway from the Dolphins' 48-20 bludgeoning at the hands of the Buffalo Bills. Yeah, it was ugly, but it's over. It's time to move on to the New York Giants. Welcome, Dolphins fans. This is Dolphins Deep Dive. I'm your host, Chris Perkins, Miami Dolphins columnist for the South Florida Sun Sentinel. This is David Furones, your Dolphins beat writer for the South Florida Sun Sentinel. As a reminder, you can catch this podcast on Apple, Amazon, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. Hey, look, your Miami Dolphins are 3-1 at the 1/4 mark, roughly 1/4 of the 17-game season, and things are going well. Yeah, last week's 48-20 loss at Buffalo was a disaster, and we're going to get into that, as well as Vic Fangio's role in that loss. But overall, things are going well for the Dolphins. We're going to give the Dolphins a letter grade later on in the show on the first 4 games of the season. I think we'll be in pretty good agreement on that. But anyway, we're going to discuss the big picture. We're going to drill down to the little picture. Let's dive in. All right, Furones, let's talk about Vic Fangio's role in the Buffalo loss. And really, I guess the big thing, Jalen Phillips wasn't there, but the big thing is Xavier Howard was not shadowing Stephon Diggs. They stayed on their respective sides of the field. Xavier on the left side, Kader Kohou on the right side, and Buffalo took advantage of the Diggs versus Kohou matchup. 3 touchdowns for Stephon Diggs, 2 big penalties for Kader Kohou, didn't tackle well. Furones, I'm not worried about Kader Kohou. He's a young player, but I think he's going to be okay. Was this Fangio's fault? Was this Kohou's fault? What was happening defensively there?
Well, that's really where they lost this game, in my opinion. With knowledge the Dolphins weren't going to have their 2 corners switch sides, they flat out said, okay, let's have our best wide receiver go away from your best corner. So Stephon Diggs, Xavier Howard. And I know Xavier Howard has also had his share of difficulties historically against Diggs. I mean, the guy's that good. But if you're Buffalo, do you want him going against a 4-time Pro Bowler or a second-year undrafted guy? Granted, we all know how solid Kohu has been so far in his career, but really he was kind of left hung out to dry a little bit and exploited. Diggs, 6 catches, 120 yards, 3 touchdowns. Most of that came against Kohu. The first touchdown kind of in the middle of a zone, but the other 2 later definitely on Kohu. And the missed tackle, of course, where Brandon Jones was also involved. Also that deep pass interference and the late shove out of bounds. Those 2 plays combined for 58 penalty yards on top of the 120 that he had receiving, plus the declined illegal contact on that touchdown between Kohu and Jones. So post-game said he wanted to shadow Diggs. Vic Fangio may have to rethink how he uses his corners in that regard. And I'm also looking forward to the next time these teams meet, because if all are healthy, Jalen Ramsey is inserted into that equation, and it's likely him and X in the base with Kohu in the nickel, and maybe Nick Needham factoring in if he's back too. So that's really what I'm looking forward to when these 2 teams meet again in Week 18, the regular season finale.
Okay, Furones, so look, Vic Fangio tells us a lot of stuff during the week. Well, we talk to him every Thursday. If you listen closely to what he says, he's told us that he doesn't have the players, right? That he told us that during training camp. He told us that during the season. He also told us last week when he was asked if X is going to shadow Stephon Diggs. He said it's not as simple as just having one man lock in on another. He said the other cornerback also has to be comfortable switching sides. I took that to mean Kader Kohu is not yet at the point in his career where he's comfortable flipping sides. So that restricts what you can do. Fangio was what is Fangio to do at that point? And I'm not, look, I am in no way, shape, or form absolving Vic Fangio of his responsibility. He's in charge of that defense, so he's got to take, his share of the blame. But, Jalen Ramsey is down. The Eli Apple experiment didn't work. Now you've got Justin Bethel in the middle, and Kader is on the edge, and it's a next man up league, blah, blah, blah. Fangio is still kind of trying to figure out what he can do with this defense, right? I mean, that's my opinion. He's got to take his blame, but he's trying to figure out what can I do with this defense, right?
And so Kohu is not comfortable moving side to side, but he's more comfortable just covering Diggs and giving up all those touchdowns throughout a game. Well, and maybe Vic Fangio did try to warn us a little bit about his personnel, but that's no excuse for him. He has talent on defense. Right now the defense doesn't have Ramsey, which was going to be crucial to this defense, but he's familiar with, say, Bradley Chubb. It's not because of fit to the scheme that he has been a non-factor. David Long and Deshaun Elliott, those were his choices in free agency, although he didn't have Elliott on Sunday. And Jalen Phillips was also out, of course. And no one's complaining about Wilkins and Sealer up front. Wilkins, though, kind of was a non-factor through really most of that game against the Bills. 3 quarters, no tackles. And no one's complaining about Javon Holland at safety, who was #1 rated safety through 3 weeks. AVG seems to be on track for his best season so far. So at some point, he's got to be able to get it out of the personnel that he does have.
No, I agree with you. And look, here's another thing, Furones, about this defense. Twice after games now, Mike McDaniel, after the Chargers game and after the Buffalo game, Mike McDaniel has talked about the defensive players trying to do too much, trying to make plays outside of the system. He talked about the poor tackling, and we definitely saw that on the Diggs touchdown, right? That Brandon Jones and Kader and looked like they were trying to go for the strip more than trying to tackle the ball carrier on that play. So, when I look at this defense, I wonder why these guys are trying to do more than their 111th, why they're playing undisciplined at times, according to Mike McDaniel. And I've got to think, Furones, that they look around and they say either I don't trust the guy next to me or I don't trust the system. I've got to do a little bit more. I've got to be the guy to make the play, as opposed to saying I'll do my 111th, I'll play my responsibility, and the next guy is going to make the play. That's how I look at it. Am I wrong?
It's interesting. And one of the things a lot of defenders were saying throughout the offseason was the freedom in this defense.
Right.
Now, do you venture into too much freedom, maybe defensively? Freedom, which is great when given to people from governing bodies, but maybe not as good when it's given by football coaches to football players that may want to make a play out of their realm in the greater scheme of things. So that is one of the interesting aspects that maybe sometimes too much freedom could play into that.
So, just to kind of put a bow on this defense, Fangio, I'm not absolving him at all. Fangio has got to get these guys right. He's the highest paid assistant in NFL history. So he's got to get these dudes right. But what has to change here? Jalen Phillips, it sounded yesterday like Jalen Phillips will have a very good chance to play this week. But you're still going to have Cater out there. I think Cater is going to be okay. The run defense has got to get fixed. The pass defense, look, Daniel Jones, we saw last night what they're going to be up against, but it's a get right game, and you got to get right? You can't have the Giants come in here and score 31 points on you and you win by 3.
Oh God, if that happens, then we're really concerned. A get right game. I mean, we kind of are already with this defense, but last time we had sort of similar concerns. Week 1 against the Chargers, where you said, okay, they still won that shootout, and you gave up the 34 points, but your offense was able to do enough against a Chargers defense that in its own right isn't very good. So then they bounced back the next week against New England, against also another not so great offense. So I think these are a couple of get right weeks. They come back home. They've been on the road 3 of the first 4 weeks. Some tough matchups on the road. We're going to get into just the greater picture of this 4-game start, but I see these 2 weeks as now you get back on track. I like the defense to rebound the way they did week 2 against the Patriots when we had that last sort of really bad defensive game, and the guys just came out with a different energy. Now, going forward, it's more about just consistency. Let's not have those one instances where you have to then get remotivated again to get right.
Yeah. Hey, all right, so I don't know if we're having some problems here. Are we having problems? Are we still connected?
I hear you just fine.
Okay, good. All right, so I'm dipping in on the chat here, and Grandizer 12, what's up? Cam Smith is not injured. Cam Smith is an interesting case. He's just not ready to play from scrimmage yet. He's playing special team snaps, but he's not ready to play from scrimmage yet. And then when we talk about the poor tackling, that has been an issue for a while in the secondary. They've got to figure out a way to get that fixed. You're exactly right. So we're going to see what Vic Fangio cooks up for this defense, because again, he doesn't get a free pass. Nobody gets a free pass, and that leads us right into our next segment: offensive line. Without Teron Armstead, is offensive line a major concern? Kendall Lamb is now going to be your starter at left tackle. Mike McDaniel said yesterday it's probably weeks as opposed to days with Teron Armstead and that left leg injury that he sustained, left knee injury. So I know that there's been a whole lot of talk about Liam Eichenberg and the job that he did or didn't do at backup center. But for right now, no Teron Armstead. Furones, you can take this from any angle you want. Should this have been expected? Were the Dolphins crazy to go with Teron? Is Kendall Lamb going to be an adequate backup? Any angle you want, but it is without Teron, is the offensive line now a major concern?
No, you're like Vic Fangio with Dolphins defenders. You're giving me the freedom to go ahead and answer however I like. More concerning than when Kendall Lamb is replacing Teron Armstead is probably or definitely when Liam Eichenberg has to play backup center as the backup center has to be inserted for Connor Williams. Although maybe Connor Williams can come back this week, so the team is hopeful that he can practice Wednesday, and then they see how he progresses with that groin injury. I know groin injuries kind of do take a little bit longer to get you right, but you're going to be without Armstead for weeks now, so maybe that means an IR stint for him. But what does give me hope is that Lamb has already looked good in weeks 1 and 2 when T-Stead was out. So that is one thing where then maybe now once you do have Connor Williams back anchoring in the middle of the line, then hopefully that whole operation of the line as a whole can function a little bit better, because you did see Kendall Lamb was playing a lot those first couple. all those 2 weeks, but then those first 3 weeks as a whole, when it was just 1 sack and 5 quarterback hits allowed against Tua Tagovailoa, turned into 4 sacks and 9 quarterback hits in one game when we saw Connor Williams was out the whole game. Although those kind of like did pile up once T-Stead did go out in that second quarter.
Patrick Vecchio, welcome to the chat, man. We will get to your question about is Fangio the reason why Wilkins' numbers are down at the end of the segment. But so, yeah, you know what? I'll say this about Teron Armstead not being there. The intangibles are also a big thing, right? Because we always hear about how Teron helps all the younger players. Last week or 2 games ago, the Denver game, fourth quarter, I looked down on the sideline and Teron is giving, demonstrations to Keon Smith, look like about how, technique. Teron is always helping. He's always coaching. And so from that standpoint, I wonder what's going to happen to the offensive line now. But, really a big key to, according to a lot of people, Connor Williams should be back this week. And so that part of the offensive line, Furones, I could go so deep into this thing. I don't understand.
Well, this is a deep dive. This is Dolphins deep dive. You do that.
You're right. Deep in. You're right. This is the correct format, isn't it? So how does the backup center, like you've got Mike McDaniel, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, you've got the pre-snap motion, you've got all this innovation, you've got this speed and this talent, Raheem Mostert and Devon Achane, and you're telling me the backup center can bring this all to a halt? Like you've got to have better roster construction than that, right? And here's why I don't blame Liam. Like, okay, so that this guy was not a good tackle, he was not a good guard. Maybe he barely made your 53-man roster. Why is he in position to play a key role on your team at Buffalo? Like, I'll tell you why. Because he didn't work out. Because you whiffed on the Dan Feeney thing, guaranteed him $3 million. He wasn't going to make the 53. You were able to trade him to Chicago. But now your backup center is a guy who played center for the first time during OTAs and minicamp with no pads on, didn't play it during training camp, and now for the biggest game to that point on the schedule, he's your starter. Of course it's not going to work out. What do you expect? So I can't put this on Liam. I mean, it's a players' league, and Liam has got to perform. But at a certain point, this guy can't do it. And so it goes to the coach. And it goes to the GM, right?
Yeah. I mean, you're right on all those fronts. And the fact that Dan Feeney did not work out. And, we saw him during training camp. He was really not suitable to make a 53-man roster and play. So that's why you had, when Connor Williams was holding out during OTAs, you had him get some reps. And then turns out he's the guy now in this pivotal Week 4 game for an early lead in the AFC East against the Buffalo Bills. Some things I noticed, I feel like Liam Eichenberg has to sort of look through his legs a lot before the snap in order to get his snap off. So I wonder if that's something he's just not comfortable, just looking straight forward and snapping the football, which could that then lead to what now you have to get recalibrated when you look back up and then, find where guys are. If there was movement, if someone's shooting one shoulder or the other in your A gap as a center. So that's one thing I'm kind of interested in because pressure from up the middle can really disrupt the timing of a lot of plays. Well, a lot more than pressure off the edge, even though so many sacks come off of what tackles give up on the outside of the line. So, and it really did disrupt a lot of the timing on Sunday, which this offense is just so much based on it. And we saw how the difficulties that Tua had when he was facing pressure as opposed to the first 3 weeks, how efficient he was when he really didn't see much pressure at all.
So where are we with this O-line, Furones? The first three games, like you were saying, the O-line was good. They allowed 1 sack. Now they allow the 4 sacks and the 9 quarterback hits. I was one of the ones through 3 weeks saying that, maybe this offensive line is going to be better than I thought. Maybe my suspicions during training camp and the offseason were kind of overblown and unfounded. But now the reality of Teron Armstead is there. We're getting into the depth a little bit, right? Look, I think Kendall Lamb has showed himself pretty well. So, and I thought the offensive line depth was good last year, but where are we with this offensive line? I'm kind of thinking instead of a letter grade of like, C plus or B minus, I'm back at kind of an incomplete wait and see type situation.
Yeah, for sure. And I give a lot of credit to Buffalo, too. Their defensive front, and even they were without Von Miller, too. So just imagine if they had him, too. But Greg Rousseau, obviously a couple sacks, a pass bat down. Leonard Floyd was big for them. They were getting through a little bit even when Armstead was in early, but then it really started to pile up after his injury. And with all 4 sacks did happen afterward, if I'm not mistaken. So really, again, disrupting the timings. I do trust in Kendall Lamb based on what we saw those first 2 weeks where he played, but ultimately, yeah, it's going to be a lot of wait and see. There's more tape on him now with Miami, so what he was able to do those 2 weeks is out there a little bit more. Like you said, it's a constant adjustment versus counter adjustment league. So now we also get to see Butch Barry, what he does when there's stuff on tape of what he's doing with his offensive line, what his linemen specifically have shown are their strengths and weaknesses. Now there's tape on some of those weaknesses that the Bills exploited. So can he coach them up to now get them to make the necessary adjustments as well? After we saw, he was coaching very well when things were going so smoothly the first 3 weeks. Can he make those adjustments now?
Yep. No, you're exactly right. All right, let's get to Patrick Vecchio's question here. Is Fangio the reason why Wilkins' numbers are down? No, I don't think so. Look, Christian, I think last game was the only game that Christian has kind of had a down game. Christian is not going to get the sack totals that the other defensive tackles who got money are getting or have gotten. That's just kind of not what Christian Wilkins does. And I will say this, when McDaniel talks about guys trying to do too much, I have wondered if Christian Wilkins trying to get sacks is included in that group. I haven't seen any indication of it, but no, I don't think that Fangio is taking anything away from Wilkins. Do you, Furones?
No, that's Wilkins. He has a simple job. You're on the defensive line, whether 3 technique, wherever you line up. You go do your thing. I don't think the scheme will impact too much what he's doing. Maybe, if anything, gives him more opportunities to pass rush where it's more 4-man rushes. So he could be one of the guys getting there as if you have more guys in the secondary, giving the pass rushers more time to get to the quarterback. So if anything, that's one thing where it could probably benefit Christian Wilkins in that regard. If he's trying to make his money, sacks are what pays. But yeah, I do want to see him make a bigger impact than not having a tackle through 3 quarters. That was disappointing on Sunday.
Yeah, and shocking. I mean, that's not Christian Wilkins. One more from Call of Duty 1. Welcome. Are the Dolphins a weak football team that can't run the ball 3rd and short? It's an interesting question because the creativity of the offense has come around when we see short yardage and red zone. Whether it's a jet sweep or last year Durham Smythe had the direct snap, but it's Chris Brooks is probably as close as they get to a power running guy. Jeff Wilson, who's on IR, he's a slasher. I know he can run with power, but he's a slasher. Raheem Mostert flashes power. Devon Achane, he's 188 pounds. So, and Alec Ingold, I'm not really sure that you want to give it to him. So, it's not a power running team. This is not a muscle offense. It's a finesse team. It's a creativity team. It's a innovation team. It's we're going to kind of out trick you or outthink you. We're going to use pre-snap motion. I don't know about the 3rd and 1. I'm using all this stuff. I haven't seen evidence that they can just hand it off to somebody on 3rd and 1 and get that yard. They have to kind of be creative, right, Furones? Is that accurate?
Yeah, the run game is most effective for Mike McDaniel when there's a lot of possibilities of what they might do. And then that's when he can present you that eye candy, although Frank Smith says not to call it eye candy. They still were calling it that, Tony Romo and Jim Nantz on the broadcast for Sunday's game. But yeah, Frank Smith was saying there's always a purpose for every motion, everything you see. There is a purpose and then a counter to what they're doing with it. But yeah, when it's time to just 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, and it's okay, we're going to just run up the middle to get this yard. Yeah, this offense does oftentimes have difficulty just picking that up when both sides know what the team is going to do.
Yeah, and really the quarterback sneak is pretty much off the table. And I'm not trying to be flip or funny or anything, but it pretty much is.
Yeah, so. You want to be hesitant in putting Tua in those scenarios for sure.
Yep. All right. Time for the Furones bonus, baby.
Oh,
how about this? How about that? Yeah, we gotta get some
bonus.
There we go. All right, so look, we're going kind of universal today, right? So your Miami Marlins made the playoffs. So happy for the Marlins. I know you're a Marlins fan and a baseball fan like me. So the perfect topper to South Florida's best sports year ever. And I know the year is not over, but all 4 pro sports teams made the playoffs in this calendar year. That's the first time ever. So, in honor of that, Furones, give me your 3 best Miami sports moments from this calendar year, or South Florida sports moments. And I'll kind of wet your a little bit. We have the Dolphins scoring 70 points. We have Lionel Messi making that game-winning stoppage time free kick in his Inter Miami debut. We have Shohei Ohtani striking out Mike Trout in the World Baseball Classic Championship. UM and FAU in the Final Four. The UM women in the Elite Eight. Heat make the NBA Finals. Panthers make the NBA Finals. The Marlins clinch their playoff berth. It was on the road, but it still counts. Jason Sanders, this calendar year, hits that 50-yard field goal to put the Dolphins in the playoffs against the Jets. So what? You're 3 of 2023. What are you going with here, Furones?
Okay, I heard you say Jason Sanders' name, and I said, what was so great for South Florida there? But and also Coco Gauff, U.S. Open champ, South Florida native, Brooks Koepka as well. Yep. We're talking about this because the Marlins are in the playoffs, of course, for the first time in a non-COVID year since 2003, and Jesus Luzardo, who was just a kid watching those 03 Marlins win the World Series. He's a South Florida kid from Stoneman Douglas High. I actually covered him my first year at the Sentinel when I was on the high school sports beat. So he's on the mound for the Marlins in this first playoff game. And weird in a playoff setting, but normal for regular season. 3 games set on the road here to get to the next round. South Florida, you're right. So many moments. Messi mania hit us here in South Florida. The city of near champions, I think I said in one tweet this summer after the Heat finals run, and then the Panthers at the same time, both going down in 5 in their respective finals. UM and FAU, of course, reaching the Final Four. That was historic. So my original thought was, keep it simple. That the 3 would be, okay, Heat going all the way to the finals as an 8 seed. The Panthers in the same scenario in the NHL playoffs. And then also UM and FAU, I mean, for 2 South Florida teams to be in the Final Four. And then, UM as a 5 seed, was FAU a 9 seed, if I'm not mistaken, or 8 or 9 but they were in that.
9, I think, yeah.
Okay, yeah. But now, I mean, I may bump that last one for Messi because of the international scope of it, how thrilling that winning goal was in that debut that he had with Inter Miami, how he has lifted a middling MLS team to where they are almost unbeatable in MLS play, winning that trophy as well. So Heat, Panthers, Messi for me. At this point, I guess the Final Four is almost like a distant memory because we had all those other things happen throughout the summer. And then obviously the Dolphins can enter that equation. This year's Dolphins can enter that equation and provide some more memories. Ohtani Trout, that was incredible. And World Baseball Classic being in Miami, that was so cool with all the different cultures sort of colliding here. And also that was Luis Ariza's kind of Lone Depot introduction before winning the batting title with the Marlins this year. But Ohtani Trout, that was more because they were teammates also on an LA team which the Angels aren't very good anyway. But that was cool to see. The Sanders field goal to get them in the playoffs. I know it's a Dolphin show, but That finale last year was just major trash. That game was just absolute trash. It was 11-6. The game sucked. And it was after 5 straight losses, too. So a playoff berth should have been a given after going 8-3 to start. So you needed all of that just to get into the playoffs as a 7 seed. That was kind of just yeah. Yeah, they got into the playoffs. He finally made a 50-yard field goal, all that. But, that Dolphins team should have been in the playoffs clinching. Before that, it shouldn't have come down to it. And it was an 11-6 ugly game. So, I'll leave that one off the board.
Yeah, you know what? It's tough. It's tough. I hate to leave Messi out, but I think I'm gonna go all local, and I'm gonna go Heat making the finals, Panthers making the finals, and then if I can combine UM and FAU, just the Final Four. I'm going to go hyper local. Leaving Messi out and leaving the Dolphins out and leaving the Marlins out with the job that they've done. They were buyers at the trade deadline and not sellers, and they played meaningful baseball in September, and they're in the playoffs. I hate to leave them out, but it's a tough world, baby. Tough world.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, all the Marlins have done so far is just get to the postseason, and it's a bigger playoff, 6 teams in every league, where in the old days when it was just the one wild card, the Marlins wouldn't have gotten in. The Phillies would have that wild card spot easily. Now the Marlins would be playing a wild card game because they did get the 5 seed against the Phillies under the previous format that we just had, where it was that 1-game wild card, 4 and 5 go against each other. So they still would be in that scenario. But if the Marlins can go all the way to the World Series like they did in 97 and 03, which I think those teams are definitely better than this year's. And the Marlins don't have Sandy Alcantara, Yuri Perez for this final run. Luis Ariz is kind of limping around. So then they could bump themselves up. But right now, all they've done is just get to the playoffs. They could be 0-2 in barbecue for all we know if they just lose tonight and tomorrow. So let's hold off on putting them too high.
All right, Furones, let's migrate to segment 3 here. Let's get back on Dolphins. Give the Dolphins a grade for the first quarter of the season. Now, I can't decide between an A or an A minus. And I know that's kind of ticky-tack, but I think that, look, you're 3-1. Yeah, you lost at Buffalo, and yeah, you lost by 28, but you went to the Chargers and won a tough game on the road, a team that had beat you last year. Then you beat the Patriots, a division rival, on the road. You were 0-3 on the road in divisional games last year. You scored 70 points against Denver, and the Buffalo game didn't go as you wanted. But I think at the start of the season, if we'd have said 3-1 after 4 games, that's a thumbs up. So the A minus would be because of the way that the defense is played, the backup center position, the special teams issues. So I'm going to give them an A. What the heck? I'm just going to give them the A, Furones. I'm a generous grader. You would have liked to have been in my class.
Well, yeah, I really would have. Boy, I thought you were usually the one that kind of talks everything down a little bit. I'm supposed to be the one that's more positive. But that high after what we just saw?
Yeah.
I mean, all things considered, I'll still say a B because the thing is you still haven't proven you're above Buffalo. I think you needed to get that win against Buffalo, or at least be as competitive as you were in last year's games, if you're going to call an A or A minus for the first 4 games. So what we just saw on Sunday, that did happen. In fact, you probably feel further from them today than you did last year. I know there's a lot of factors that went into why that score got out of hand, and maybe some other reasons why the Dolphins were closer in those games and even won one at home against the Bills last year. But that's what an A would have required for me. But 3-1 is a very good start with 3 of those first 4 on the road against good teams, or at least a tough team in New England. Denver, notwithstanding, of course, but still, even when you played Denver, it was a historic 50-point landslide victory. So, after this past week 4 game, then I got to say B.
But Furones, it's just one game. It's just one game. They're even on turnover margin. That's a stat that Mike McDaniel looks at, that I think that all of us look at. I think, what were they last year? -7 or something like that. But anyway, they're plus 21 in point differential. I don't really care about that number at all. The 70-point game, the 50-point winning margin. We got to wait till like week 8 for that thing to, get real again, the point differential. But being 2-1 on the road, yeah, you did lose at Buffalo, but you're 2-1 on the road. You're even in turnover margin. Tua is playing well. Tyreek is playing well. Waddle is playing well. The run game, we'll see. The offensive line, we'll see. The defense, we'll see. But none of this is a surprise. I think, what I said at the start of the year, I said this team 10-7, but I don't think that they can win a playoff game. I'm still at 10-7, but I do think they can win a playoff game. Now, I know that at this point they might be looking at a road playoff game because they just lost to Buffalo. But as long as you aren't going to Buffalo or Kansas City, I don't know about Baltimore, Cincinnati. It looks like it's gonna take them weeks to get back to being the respected Cincinnati of the previous couple of years. There's only a select few places I think that this team should be worried about going for a first-round road playoff game. I think they've level jumped a little bit through the first 4 weeks of the season.
Oh, I mean, you definitely look at this year's start as this team is better suited, more primed to go further than what they were last year, even when they were 3-0 to start last year. But yeah, their chances at winning the division took a major hit on Sunday. Now they'll see Buffalo again, and then if they're even with them in the standings by then that game at home will be for the AFC East, or even if there's other tiebreakers that could work in their advantage, where, hey, the Bills also already do have a loss to the Jets in the division, so that could help them down the road if the Dolphins end up with a split against Buffalo. So even if they were a game behind, then they could make that up. But just the place that they could have been in had they won this game on Sunday, you think about they would have been 2 games up on the whole AFC East, Buffalo included, with tiebreakers in hand against Buffalo and the Patriots, just the one division games on the road. So by way of a road victory, meaning you still see them the second time at home, that would have just been so huge, and then you missed that opportunity. And then right now, it's just such a huge swing. Buffalo and Miami, both 3-1. The Bills have the early tiebreaker, so they stand atop the division through 4 weeks. So right now, they would be looking at a wild card if things were to stand pat the rest of the way. And then you get these get-right games, and then you still have a tough schedule later on at Philly, Kansas City, Chiefs in Germany. Yeah, you have the Cowboys late in the year, the Ravens, of course, that penultimate week. The Jets can still do some things, if Zach Wilson plays like he did on Sunday Night Football a little bit, and they hang tight like they did against the Chiefs, that defense is going to keep them in games too, so you still have to watch out for them.
Furones, I'm going to have a Dolphins deep dive drinking game of whenever you say penultimate. I'm going to have a bottle of whiskey right here.
Why say that off?
I'm just going to take a shot, but I think you've used it twice this season already.
Oh, this season. Okay.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah. I mean, who uses
it leaves that much of an impression on you every time.
You do. You leave a mark. You leave a mark.
When I talk about see now with the extra week in the regular season, when I talk about week 17, because in my head I'm still like thinking back to week 17 being the last game of the regular season. So then I have to say avoid that in my head, because I'm still in the mindset of, wait, week 17 is the last one. No, wait, now it's week 18. So I just say penultimate, and it's the second to last.
My goodness, man. All right, that's that education that you got there. We got a question.
University of Miami.
That's right, exactly. Canes, baby. That's it.
And Miami-Dade County Public Schools.
Oh, there you go. Look at you, baby. All local. I like it. All right, in the chat, Joe Ange, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. Welcome to the chat. Here's the question. Where's Jerome Baker been, or David Long? The missed tackling is brutal. Yeah, Joe, I'm not going to disagree with you. The missed tackling has been brutal. David Long has been very up and down, I think. I didn't expect a whole lot from these linebackers, and I'm not sure where their amount of blame lies for kind of the up and down play of the defense. But I don't know what to expect from David Long at this point. So to ask where he's been, this might be the David Long that the Dolphins signed up for. I don't know. But neither him nor Baker has been especially impactful. They haven't been terrible, but they have not been impactful. And to ask where have they been, I think that's a fair question.
Yeah. Oh, is he asking literally where have they been? Oh, rhetorically. Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean the missed tackles are a concern, and David Long was seen as a great fit in this scheme, and do it all linebacker, run and hit guy, and so you should expect him to secure those tackles. And Jerome Baker, yeah, it's an adjustment for him in Vic Fangio's defense. So the fit has kind of been a little bit difficult to transition, but you expect more out of both of those guys.
Yeah. All right, Furones, we're going to go to segment 4. It's going to be a game that we're going to play. It's called The Truth Is. And so I'm going to make a statement, and your answer must start with the phrase, the truth is. All right? So here we go. The first one, Devon Achane should be the starter.
Truth is, I don't care about who starts. All I know is that Achane should be getting a decent share of touches. So whoever's out first, that's one thing. Achane has earned his touches, and if Raheem Mostert is still the starter per se, and then Achane comes in second drive, if they get there's probably going to be changes in carry distribution. Well, Achane already did have 18 against the Broncos. Of course, that one was getting out of hand, and you saw how much of a hot hand he was in that one. Mostert still got his. He had 4 total touchdowns of his own right. But, I think Achane has definitely proven he should get the touches above Ahmed. And then, if Mostert and him are splitting touches, then that also keeps Achane fresh for when he does come in. So, I do like the carry distribution. Mostert, he has to fix that fumbling issue that we saw Sunday. We can't have that happen.
Yeah. I think the truth is Achane has earned more touches, and he should get more touches than Raheem Mostert next week, and then we'll kind of play it by ear after that. All right, Furones, here's our next one. I make this statement, and you start your answer with the truth is. The offense, when choosing between offense and defense, must take more than 50% of the blame for the Buffalo loss.
The truth is no, less than 50. 48 points, but the offense, it didn't keep up with what was looking like a shootout early. So they were trading blows, and then eventually the offense couldn't keep up. But really, the defense just kept allowing Buffalo touchdowns. Yeah, sometimes there were turnovers, field position deals that had to do with it, but I still say 60-40 at least on the defense.
The truth is the offense does have to take more of the blame because the offense is the more talented. It's the more talented unit. You've got the higher expectations. You've got so much skill over there on the offensive side. And look, this defense is going to take a while. They weren't very good last year. That's why Vic Fangio is in there. Your best player, Jalen Ramsey, I guess he's your best defensive player, right? He's been sidelined. So again, these are not excuses. This is reality. Like, this defense is not yet ready for the big time. So the offense has to carry a disproportionate share of the load until the defense finds its footing. That's my thought.
But this defense is talented in its own right. We talked about it earlier. I mean, there's a lot of talent at every level of this defense, and for it not to be performing, 48 points, you're not going to win a lot of games in the NFL giving up 48 points.
Agreed. All right, here's our next statement. You start your answer with the truth is. The cornerback situation in the base and the nickel is fine.
The truth is it's not. It's not for now. Well, we've talked about it. When Ramsey and Needham are back in the mix, it'll be much better.
Yeah, I agree. Justin Bethel, I don't know how many people had him playing nickel, this early in the season, but that's an unexpected development with this cornerback situation. They needed Eli Apple to be ready. They need Cam Smith to be ready. Neither of those are happening. So yeah, you're kind of in a struggling situation there. All right, here's our last one, Furones. Here's the statement. You start your answer with the truth is. It's a major disappointment if the Dolphins aren't 5-1 heading into the Philly game.
Oh, absolutely the truth. Oh wait, I already messed it up. The truth is. It's absolutely the truth. You see the Giants on Monday Night Football. The Panthers are 0-4. These are must-have wins at home before you get to that Philly Sunday Night Football game.
Yeah, I think you're right. The truth is they've got to be 5-1. It would be a major disappointment if they're not 5-1 heading into that Philly game. So we're gonna see what this team can do here, Furones. I think that they will be 5-1. But we're going to see. All right, let's go back out here to the chat and see. Joe is saying that a lot of these guys don't fit Fangio's scheme. Do you think that that's the case? I think we're still finding out. Fangio is finding out, and the players are finding out. And nobody wants to hear this, but I think it's going to be until Thanksgiving until Fangio really knows what he has with this defense. But are bad fits, Furones, are still kind of in exploratory territory here?
Thanksgiving, is that because you have insider information that is when Jalen Ramsey is coming back? Is that what I'm hearing?
That's it.
You do. Oh, you have breaking news here. Yeah, I mean, some guys are tough fits here because they were just playing in a totally different scheme under Josh Boyer and Brian Flores that previous year before Boyer was just alone. So Jerome Baker's one of them. Brandon Jones is definitely one of them, blitzing safety in that scheme. And then he had a tough time in his first regular season action. That was a tough spot to be in with Deshaun Elliott out. For that to be his first action off a knee injury, to be against the Buffalo Bills in a new defense. So a couple missed tackles there. So that'll be an adjustment for him.
Yeah, and Grandizer 12, it says true perk, but the defense is not filled with a bunch of rookies. No, it's not. It's not. But, I think, look, it's a new scheme. And it's a new coach, new coordinator, and they're doing things that they aren't used to doing. And I did a note in today's paper, which there's a thing called a newspaper, by the way. But I did a note in today's paper. It's also online about Brandon Jones playing 70 snaps in the game, all 58 from scrimmage, 12 on special teams. But he was, almost in a new role for Furones from the standpoint of it's two deep safeties now. If you're Brandon Jones, you're no longer blitzing. You're no longer the eighth man in the box. So that's also something that takes some adjustment, that takes some time. He's in a new role, in a new scheme. Again, no excuses, zero excuses. But the reality is, a lot of these guys are learning new things, and look, the starters don't play in the preseason, right? Like, I don't know how many snaps the starters got. Brandon Jones got maybe 0 in the preseason, but the starters, these units don't play together. This isn't, 1990 where these guys are playing like 5 quarters together. They were hardly together. So September is pretty much the preseason. All right, Furones, let's go to our last segment here. It's pick'em time, baby. Dolphins and Giants. Who you got? I'm going to go first here. I had it, quite honestly, I had 34-31, but that was made like yesterday morning. And so now,
okay.
Now I'm going to say 34-10. I just can't see the Giants doing anything meaningful, especially on the road, especially after what I saw last night. The Dolphins should be in sync after they're at home after a road loss. I'm looking for Tyreek Hill to have a bounce back game. He's been kind of held in check by Buffalo and New England, right? So I still think Tyreek gets to 2,000 yards this year. So I think he's going to have something good. And Vic Fangio better have something special cooked up for this Giants offense, for Daniel Jones and all of them, because you can't let them put like 3 or 4 touchdowns on you. So 34-10 Dolphins.
Yeah, all right, good adjustment on your part, because it's hard to see the Giants scoring 31 points in a game. So, I say Dolphins in a blowout. I'll go like 34-13. If Saquon Barkley is back, then maybe I give the Giants another touchdown, and it's 34-20, but multiple possessions regardless. Dolphins come out motivated after that loss. The defense has a bounce back like we saw week 2 after that side didn't like what it did against the Chargers. Heat and humidity, 1 p.m. at home. The Giants on a short week after giving up 11 sacks. Yeah, I have the Dolphins winning handily. All
right, Furones, let's go to one more from the chat here. Miami Kid, Jay, thanks for joining us. The comment is, truth be told, McDermott has McDaniel's number. He out-schemed him, period. After those 14 points, the offense sputtered. I agree. I agree with that. They did. Look, they got out coached. McDaniel got out coached by McDermott. McDermott, obviously the head coach, but a defensive mind, a defensive background. McDaniel, an offensive background. So they got out coached there, and they got out coached with Fangio versus Ken Dorsey. Ken Dorsey won. Sean McDermott won. Would you agree with that? And how significant is that moving forward, Furones?
Yeah. I think he was trying to play the game we were playing last segment, but he sort of said "truth be told" instead of the truth. Maybe we could change the wording on it. We'll go "truth be told."
So, all right, we'll take that.
Yeah, yeah. No, and I agree with that. I mean, definitely, McDermott won that coaching battle against McDaniel. He's a defensive coach. McDaniel's an offensive coach, so they won that. And the other side, like you said, the Dorsey versus Fangio as well. After McDaniel sort of. With a team that wasn't on Buffalo's level last year, he won one game and then was very close in a game where everyone expected they were going to get blown out in the snow up there in Orchard Park. Very close in that one, and then very close again when everyone thought they would get blown out in the playoffs with Skylar Thompson playing with Tua Tagovailoa out due to concussion. So McDaniel sort of had his number last year, and then this one definitely went to McDermott.
Yeah. All right, Furones, that wraps it up for Dolphins Deep Dive. But look, I still feel very positive about the first quarter of the season. We got 2 get-right games before another showdown in Philly. Yeah, I'm looking ahead. I'm looking past both of these next 2 games to the Philly game. But we will be back. Don't look past us. We'll be back next week, sunsentinel.com, Dolphins Deep Dive, every Tuesday at noon. We'll see you then.